We're here with Christina Curell from MSU Extension and the Great Lakes Cover Crop Initiative. We're just wrapping up our Cover Crop Field Day on August 23rd, 2012. And we really want to, I think I could say that both Christina and I are pretty excited about the potential of cover crops, really excited to see more and more farmers looking into these things. So, Christina, what are some of the top reasons you're running into in the countryside why people are taking a fresh look at these cover crops?
The main reason that we've seen lately is for soil building. We know that cover crops can offer a lot of value to increasing soil organic matter, getting that microorganisms working. So a lot of people are looking at various cover crops to build up soil. We are also looking at cover crops for grazing and feed potential for forage this year because of some of the challenges with the weather. So that's another reason, and of course there's always the whole erosion control issue that's been out there. So we're looking at it for many different reasons.
Talk a little bit about feeding soil biology with a cover crop. What's the advantage of having that green growing plant on the soil throughout the year as opposed to just, maybe somebody who's doing, we ran into some really great no-till farmers earlier this year, weren't interested in cover crops, but boy, they seem to have really great soils because they were long-term no-tillers. What's a cover crop going to add to a system like that?
The cover crop's going to add continual food to that system. It's going to make sure that those microorganisms have food the entire year. It's going to keep it active and it's going to keep it alive and growing, not just in the topsoil but farther down into the subsoil. So we can actually see a big benefit in keeping that whole microclimate or active and moving throughout the entire year.
I think what many people don't realize is, we all think of plants taking up things out of the soil.
Right.
At the same time, those plants are actually pushing sugars and other chemicals out into the soil to feed the mycorrhizal fungi and those other good things down there. That's something I certainly emphasize.
Right.
Let's talk briefly about kind of the major classes of cover crops. I think we'll start with the radishes. Everybody's really excited about these daikon type or tillage type radishes with the long roots. What do you think of them, and what are some of the management issues you think farmers ought to be considering?
The radishes or oilseed radish, we're seeing a really large increase in excitement and knowledge of the radishes. One of the things that you need to be careful with radishes is that you want to plant them at the right time. We don't want to plant them too late. Now is the time to plant them in Michigan. We want to do it mid-August or to mid-September, even early September, because if you wait too long, then it's going to be too cold and it won't germinate. So that's a challenge. Radishes can be costly for some people, so we're looking at if you want to use the radishes, and maybe you want to put it in a mix to decrease the seed costs a little bit, so that you can use more of it and get the advantage of it. One of the big disadvantages, if you've ever planted an oilseed radish and you live next door to a field of oilseed radishes in the spring, they do have a tendency to release a noxious odor at times as the plants are rotting. So that can be an issue. It smells like natural gas, so some of the neighbors might be concerned about a natural gas leak, and it's just actually your field rotting. So that's a disadvantage and a management concern that you need to be cautious of. The seeds are pretty small, so you want to make sure that they're planted right. You can either plant them thick or you can plant them thin, just depends on what you want. You do need to know that if you plant them really thin, you're going to have bigger tubers, but the leaves and they're going to have big leaves. If you plant them thick, you might not think you have as much out there because they're not as big, but the biomass will still be there.
How about other kinds of mustards? We've seen some interest in, they call it biofumigation, getting those.
We use mustards. Mustards can be used especially in vegetables or some of our specialty crops for biofumigant to kill some of our nematode pests or some other pests out there. Mustards, the big challenge of mustard is again planting, make sure we plant them at the right time. But also mustard can become a noxious weed if you do not manage it. It has to be managed very carefully and very effectively. You want to make sure that you kill mustard before the seed is set, so that means before when it's flowering, the seed is being set, so you want to get it killed. You want to cut it, and you also want to incorporate it in the soil. You just don't want to leave it on top. You want to incorporate it in so that as it biodegrades, it's going to release those fumigants in the soil.
I've been reading about these things, and they say mow it and then incorporate it. What about using something like a rotavator to just go over it in one pass?
And get it. Well, as long as you can get a good cut and get it in while you might be able to do it, I would caution you to make sure that you do it correctly and that it is incorporated fully. You want that incorporated in order to get the benefit of that you get.
So run shallow but run slow.
Yes.
You're gonna do that.
Yep.
Okay.
And when you cut it, you want to go in almost immediately and incorporate it. You don't want to wait.
You know, we've got my favorite cover crop out here, buckwheat, which apparently is not a favorite of everyone out here. I love it for the soil conditioning ability that it has, especially on a poor soil. Able to actually release some potassium and phosphorus that's bound to the soil and get it all that. Make it nice and crumbly, and you don't like it because...
Buckwheat, if it's not managed, will become a weed quickly. And we've heard many times that if you plant buckwheat, you don't manage it, you let it flower, then the hard seed is set, and then you might as well sign your farm over to buckwheat, put it on their deed, because it's going to own you. You're going to be fighting it for years.
So you think the buckwheat's actually more difficult to control than, say, pigweeds or lamb's quarters, mare's tail?
Yes.
These weeds we're actually out there controlling already.
Yep. So you really have to, I mean, you have to also think those are considered a weed, and we're actually introducing buckwheat, and we don't want something we introduce to become a weed. So buckwheat is a great cover crop. You just need to make sure you manage it correctly.
Okay. Legumes. Certainly the clovers you like.
Yep, we like the clovers. We of course know that they grow very well here, and we know how much nitrogen credit we get from them to a point. Of course, I'm not sure every field is going to be specific, but we know that we can grow it well. There's other legumes that really are really phenomenal for different attributes. The peas are great for forage. We can plant those Austrian winter peas. We can plant them in a mix, and we can get some forage out of them. We can produce a lot of nitrogen in a row crop situation with them. We really like the peas, and of course there is also hairy vetch, or the vetches, and that one is also another one that has some controversy to it because hairy vetch in a lot of parts of Michigan has got out of hand, and it is a weed that runs rampant in our ditchways. But if we can somehow manage it and harness it in a row crop situation, in an annual row crop situation, I think it can be a tremendous value as a cover crop. We can get a lot of nitrogen production from hairy vetch.
Yep. But due to its vine character, probably not something we plant on a blueberry farm,
I would
Christmas
not
tree
do
farm.
it, no. I would do it, I mean, honestly, I would do it in a corn soybean rotation, something that we already intensively manage. It's not a perennial crop, it's something that we're going to kill. And when you kill hairy vetch, I don't recommend that you go light on the herbicides. I do recommend a chemical treatment. I would go heavy on the herbicide and go to top rate and hit it hard. And if you need to hit it twice, hit it twice.
Very good. You know, one we didn't talk about today is sweet clover. Another one that, you know, I think our environmentalist friends get a little bent out of shape about because it runs rampant down the roads too, but probably the best taproot of all our clovers, you know, bar none, I would say.
And you know, it's like all other crops. It's managed as a cover crop. It will actually do everything you want it to do, and it's a good one to do. So management is a key with the sweet clover. It blows well. We have some here. I would use it if it fit my plan.
Okay. And I kind of like it because it's a biennial,
Yep.
so you know you can plant it early, expect it to grow well, and if you can get it killed before the second year, you pretty much don't form seed.
And you can kill it. I mean, it's not something that we know how to kill it. We can do it.
There you go. There you go. Let's see, what else? Grasses.
Grasses, yeah. Grasses are probably the most prevalent of our cover crops because we know it. We know how to grow it. In Michigan, because of our winter, cereal rye is one that is used widely. Cereal rye can be planted late in the year. It can follow our corn and our soybeans. We can apply it. We can broadcast it after we take off the crops. We can aerial apply it. We can drill it. I mean, we can do a lot of different ways with cereal rye to get it in. It germinates well, comes up in the spring, and it has quite a good growth on it. So we use that a lot, especially in the northern parts of the state. We're seeing more and more of it.
I know Six Snap did some work years ago on different varieties of rye. Now I would say probably 90% or better of the rye that's sold is sold variety not stated.
Right.
You think there's any potential, as if this cover crop thing really gets rolling, to actually look at more varieties specifically
Right.
for, late growth, growth under cold conditions?
Yeah, one of the things that we do know of is anytime you get a variety not specified, or VNS, or some people call them bin runs, you're getting what you pay for. You're getting what's in that bin. You might not be getting the specific attribute you're looking at. We do know that there's some rye out there that has a potential to have some nematode control for certain nematodes. We do know that. And if you're looking for that, you do need to go to specific ryes out there. And there is research done, maybe not in Michigan, but if you go online, you can Google it. You probably should be able to find some of that information out.
Okay. Triticale.
Very nice. It's a very nice cover crop. It's a wheat variety, or it's a hybrid of wheat. And one of the things about triticale is it can get quite tall. You can bale it in the spring. It's a really good forage. There's growers that will green chop it and put it in ag bags. And it's got high feed value. If you're going to feed it, make sure that you get the hairless variety, because some of them have hair on the stems and cows don't like it. It tickles their nose, so they won't eat it as well. So you want to look at the hairless varieties. But if you're looking at triticale and it's a forage one, then that's what it's going to be. I like triticale. I've seen some really good responses for, especially our livestock growers, the triticale. And there's some here. It looks really nice. Impressed with it. Wheat is one that we use a lot in Michigan. People don't consider wheat as a cover crop, but we do. It is a cover crop. We use it. It's a cover crop that we can actually take off. So you're looking at it for the cover, and then you're also looking at it as a cash crop. So it's one of those nice double cropping ones that we can use. And then we usually follow with another cover crop. So we like wheat.
Yeah. Now, how about the old gambler's cover crop, double crop soybeans?
That one will work. We caution people on the expense. Soybeans it can get pretty expensive, so you can do that. Are you willing to put the expense in it? If you are, go for it. I don't see it often that much anymore. I don't see it often at all, actually, because of the expense.
Yeah, and we're a little far north. Just to play with that.
Just a little bit.
Just a touch.
Probably the one right now getting the biggest buzz is going to be your annual rye. Can we talk about that now?
Absolutely. Let's hear annual rye.
Annual rye, don't get annual ryegrass confused with cereal rye. They're a different plant. Annual ryegrass is a shorter top growth. Cereal rye's got much larger top growth, but annual ryegrass has got tremendous root penetration. It's got tremendous root depth on it. So if you're looking for the root, if you're looking for that nice stability and that microorganism activity underground, and ryegrass would be one that you may want to consider. The caveat with ryegrass is we want to make sure we plant it early enough. We don't want to wait late like we do with the cereal rye. We want to get it in soon. Its germination the temperatures need to be warmer. There are some people that are concerned with killing ryegrass, and that's a concern that we have. Ryegrass should be killed at labeled rate, and you need to follow that label on how to kill it. There are some different mixtures out there that people use to kill ryegrass. Some of them add some different things in there just to make sure that they have a good kill. But you want to make sure you get out there and get it killed before it reaches maturity.
Yeah, especially a year like this where it's so dry.
Where it's so dry, yes.
It could definitely be a problem.
And you could have depleted some water, some soil moisture.
Yeah. Of course, flip side is, most of the time, especially on this part of our county, pretty heavy soils, most of the time we're not so worried about
Right.
soil moisture being short. It's mostly being too long.
Well, it can also soak it up in the spring too. I mean, it's a double edge. If you want to get in there sooner, maybe put out a cover crop so it's going to actually soak up the water.
How about warm season grasses? Sorghum Sudan grass and
Sorghum Sudan, or Sudex, is a great cover crop. We wanted to plant it mid-July. We'd like to have planted it by now. It's something that you really should consider in a rotation, especially if you're looking at some feed value, because it will give you some feed. If you're looking at it for feed, We suggest use some of the mid-rib or something that is designed for forage because of some prussic acid concerns with prussic acid poisoning our cattle, but it's something that grows well in this state. It grows quick, it'll be up, and you'll have something growing and looking nice very fast.
How about millet?
We're getting some interest in millet, and that's pretty much in the southern part of the state as a feed. It's a great feed source. So yeah, we can grow it, and if you want, we can help you grow it. I don't see a lot of it, but it's something that would be a good feed source also.
Yeah. Also, no prussic acid problems. With
No
millet,
prussic
so
acid, that's right. The seed sourcing might be an issue on that, though.
just get a sack of bird seed at the herd.
Yeah. Well, we all want a specific variety.
Oh, details.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, what are we missing?
What cover did we miss?
Physalia.
Oh, barley.
Oh, barley.
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 Our cameraman likes barley. Barley, you can grow barley as a cover crop. It's a very good cover crop, and it also is another good feed source that you can give for your cattle. Barley would work. It'll grow well, and I think you'd be happy if you used it.
Yeah.
If it'll fit in your rotation. Crimson clover. Crimson clover. We didn't talk much about crimson clover.
We did not.
Crimson clover is another cover crop, another in the legume that works very well. And you can feed it also. It's also really good for beneficial insects. If you have perennial crops, you would probably like crimson clover. It'll grow pretty good. One of the things about crimson clover we do want to stress is you cannot frost seed crimson clover. The germination is not warm enough, so don't try frost seed crimson clover. You can frost seed the other clovers, but not crimson clover. So that's another one that we're seeing more and more use of, especially in our mixes. We're seeing a lot of crimson clover.
I think a lot of people think of that as more of a southern plant.
Right, but we grow it here as an annual. So yeah, unlike our red clovers that we look at as overwintering, that doesn't normally winter as well.
And I think one of the things we talked about with frost seeding is I think a lot of people try it too late. I like to get on frost seed when there's still enough snow on the ground that I can actually see where the seed lands, and that way you're sure that you get it on early enough that you actually will get some of that freezing and thawing action. And also, really coarse soils, sandy soils, really not effective.
No. We also didn't talk about turnips. We kind of talked about oilseed radish and we skipped turnips. Turnips are another cover crop that we see, but we normally see it when we think of turnips when we think of forages. It's one that instead of oilseed radish, we would put turnips in if we're doing a blend for grazing, to extend the grazing season, or if we're looking at it in a nice mix for pastures. It's a very good cover crop that we can use that will give cattle feed late in the fall, even into early winter, so that there's something growing out there in the pasture, something for them to eat. They'll eat the tops off, and they can eat the bulb beneath the ground.
Yeah, and some of them, the varieties that have been bred for forage actually don't really bulb much at all.
Right, you're right, but there's some that do, so.
Yeah. And there's some other squirrely things in the brassica family, forage kales, and things like that have been developed and tried.
Is there any other that we missed?
I think that's about it. We'll have this cover crop plot actually here in Hamilton, Michigan, going north out of 47th Street out of town. We'll be in place through the beginning of November, so if you happen to be viewing this video before it gets all tilled up, by all means come out, take a look at it. We put in some pretty big beds, so bring a shovel along, dig things up, poke around, and we certainly encourage you to explore cover crops with us this year. So, thank you.